He is the one.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome along to the wilds of Suffolk. I'm out here yet again doing what I do, walking along in beautiful locations, and today is absolutely gorgeous, as you can see with my t-shirt on, and giving you my thoughts and opinions on things that are happening in the world in the public consciousness. If it's your first time here, welcome. Hope you like what I'm doing today. If you're a returning subscriber, or 1,355, where did that come from of you? Welcome back, or welcome one and all. It's a pleasure and an honour to have you join me for these walks, so thank you one and all for being here. So, today, I'm titling this video, If You Can't Beat Them, Beat Them. So, I'll get straight into it. There's a lot to cover, and I'm going to come at this from a few different viewpoints. So, firstly, I'll start with, there's a guy on YouTube called Tom Bilyeu, and he just did an interview recently with a guy called Thomas, someone or other, Johnson, Thomas Johnson, I think, something like that. And anyway, it's on there. Tom Bilyeu, Brian Johnson. So Brian Johnson is one of these people that believes that AI should serve us all and should rule us all because we can't make better decisions for ourselves. That's the premise of where we're starting from today. Now, okay, like I say, going to come at this from a few different angles and try and describe how I see things and why I think people like that not only should be ignored, but I would love to debate the guy because I would tear down every argument he has, but, people like that don't debate people like me because, well, we'll get to that as well. Now, okay, so we're starting from the premise. This guy, for the last 3 years, if you want to see the interview, I'll have it linked down below in the comment section. I'll put a link to it there. If I'm going to talk about someone, I want to make sure that I give both sides of the story. So I want you to go and check it out for yourself. Don't just believe what I'm saying. You go and have a listen and determine what you... Oh, there's a muntjac deer there, jumping through. See if you can see it over the back there. See it? Let's see if we can get a little bit closer. I don't think so. There it goes. You see it? Anyway, back to the show. Back to the story. I'm in the wilds. Okay, so the premise that he's working off, for the last 3 years, this guy has said, could algorithms make my life better if I give my life over to an algorithm? So for the last 3 years, what he did was he was tested, had his blood tested every day, and so many times, a few times a day, and so that the algorithm could tell him what he needed to do, whether he needed to sleep more or whether he needed certain supplementation, blah, 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 and he gave his entire life over to this algorithm that he created to tell him how best to live. And he says, I feel better than I have in a long time. And his whole goal is to live forever and become a god, in his words, not my words, his words, okay? Omnipotent, a god, live forever. He said that should be all of our goals, is to live forever, okay? Now, I have many problems with this whole attitude, many issues with this attitude, and where do we start? All right, so let's start with, firstly, he says we should do away with free will because free will makes you make bad decisions, like you'll have chocolate or you'll have a hamburger or you'll do those things that aren't good for you, drink alcohol, do drugs, or whatever it is that are bad for you. And he said, if we had an AI controlling every action, every part of our lives, much like a world government, that the AI would be able to make decisions for us to make our lives better. Now, fair enough, if you believe that. Now, here's why I think there's many, many problems with this. I mean, oh God, it's just so bad. And I would love, like I say, I would love to debate someone like this, because obviously they're so lost in up their own arse that they can't see the wood for the trees. And that's why I came out to the trees today. It's gorgeous out here. Absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful day. Sun shining. Look at that. Woo! It's lovely. T-shirt on, T-shirt on. Now, this goes back to, I did a video a little while ago about AI and how I see AI as, there's positives and negatives to it, obviously, but the biggest problem I have with this whole AI revolution, this guy is all about AI. I want AI to take over my entire life in the world because, the AI knows best, okay? The problem I have with this is, who's programming the AI? Oh, but it's self-learning, Chris. No, it's not. It's not. And this is the thing I want everyone to come to grips with. AI is not self-learning, it's directed learning. Who's it learning from? So one of the things he brings up is, we have an existential threat in climate change. Now, if you've been here for longer than 2 seconds, you know my views on climate change. I think we can do things a lot better than what we are, but the whole premise and the whole idea of this climate change, and we have to give away our sovereignty and our rights and our ability to transact and move around and do anything in this world to a group of politicians and corporations who are going to tell us how to live and what to do, whilst they do exactly the opposite, much like during COVID. Doesn't sit well with me at all. Not even a little bit. They're hypocrites and they're scoundrels and they're scumbags, and I don't want to listen to a word of it. Now, when you have the premise that this guy's starting with it, that the fix to centralization is more centralization, to an algorithm that takes away any kind of emotional input, because emotion for us humans can be good and bad as well, right? Now, if you go by pure logic, much like Star Trek or Star Trek, with Dr. Spock with his pointy ears, it's logical, logic. Logic comes into everything. And that's how algorithms are programmed, to be logical. No emotion, logic. Okay? Now, I've also spoken about this before. With higher intelligence comes a lack of empathy. Now, obviously, a computer or an algorithm or an AI or whatever you want to call it, there's no empathy. It is pure logic. Now, if you've programmed the algorithm with a leftist mentality, or a crazy mentality being that there's too many people in the world, or that we are the species that's ruining the world because we're the virus and we are the cure, much like in TheMatrix, right? Where the AI algorithm says to the person who's in the game, by the way, in TheMatrix, that you are the virus and we are the solution. Now, if you've programmed an AI, a not self-learning, directed learning artificial intelligence that learns from the environment that it's like, if you imagine that you have a child, two different children, one's brought up in a household where it is climate change is the end of the world, there's too many people in the world, there's 54 genders or 126 genders, or all the garbage that's being pumped into us non-stop, 24 hours a day, from every single animal, from every single angle, media, mainstream, politicians, all these crazy people, these megalomaniac psychopaths. These kind of messaging, if you're programming a child or an AI or whatever you want to, insert word here, if you're telling that child that that's the truth, and that child then has all power over humanity and says, well, the only solution to the problems that we face in this world is to wipe you all out. Right, so the issue is, who's programming the program? That's the first point of call. And what are they programming it with? Is it being programmed with false data, like climate change is real? And us, you and me are creating it, not the corporate entities that create the structure and the matrix that we live in. Not those people, not the people that are polluting the earth through their business practices that they never have to be held accountable for, because at the same time as they're doing what they're doing, the politicians are making excuses for them because they're getting paid with money through the back pocket. Okay? So we have there's so many issues with this. So many issues. Now, the issue is, well, there's lots of issues, but the main one is that you have this viewpoint. The way that he frames this is, intelligent people need to make decisions for the rest of us because we can't make decisions for ourselves. Now, that right there is authoritarianism. And you want to take authoritarianism to its utmost degree, that's how you do it. You say, well, I didn't make the decision, that computer algorithm did, and it's for for the greater good. How many times have we heard that before? Well, we have to lock down the world for the greater good. Now, it's this kind of thinking that led us to the whole world being locked down during COVID for a flu. That's what it was. Like it or not, you can argue with me all day, it was a fucking flu. And it still makes me so angry. It makes me angry to my very core that they did that and destroyed the world economy, not just here in the West. Oh, Chris, you're just upset because you didn't earn as many money. No, it's the whole third world. The people in Africa, in the African nations, just to make sure that I'm not, I'm saying it right, because Africa isn't a nation, it's a continent, and there's lots of nations within Africa, just to keep you happy, you know who you are. So this idea of shutting down all trade and all commerce across the world for a flu shows you just how poisonous an attitude is, where it says authoritarianism is the best way to go because for the greater good we have to do this, which means if you listen to Jane Goodall and half the politicians and all these megalomaniac psychopaths that are billionaires, how are they billionaires again? Right? They will all tell you that they believe there's too many people in the earth. All right? So who gets to decide who isn't worthy of life? Who gave you that life? Oh, the computer algorithm that hatched you from an egg did it, like in TheMatrix. So we come to the ultimate impasse where you have people deciding that I'm more intelligent than you, you're not worthy of being part of the conversation, therefore we're going to delete you from the conversation or not allow you to take part in the conversation because your viewpoint isn't valid because it goes against what we think is the greater good. You with me? Okay. All right. So, God, there's so many angles to this. Look at the narratives that are being spun in the media. Now, I know people are going to be upset, oh, you're talking crypto again. I want you to understand the way that everything's being set, the narratives that are being set through the media, through politics, through everything that we're coming into contact with. Take, for instance, the fact that Barack Obama, who is he again? A former president, right? Former president comes over to speak to our Prime Minister here in the UK, Rishi Sunak, who no one voted for, right? That's important. No one voted for Rishi Sunak or the woman before him, Liz Truss, when Boris Johnson left office, okay? Boris Johnson was the last person we selected, or you know how I feel about elections, it's a silent S at the beginning of the election word. So when Boris Johnson left office, because he was a complete toolbag and well, you know what he did with COVID and he was partying the whole time, obviously the whole world had to be shut down, but the Prime Minister's office and all these aides and all that, they were having gangbangs at number 10. The former Prime Minister, Boris Johnson's got like 7 kids from 6 different women. All right? So, the former President of the United States comes to the UK and speaks to our Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. The next thing, Rishi Sunak comes out and says, the Russian elections are not valid. Says the guy that was never voted in. Okay? It's this false reality being created. And this is why I have such a problem with this whole, we're going to let AI decide, because it's been programmed with a false reality to start with. So how can you, garbage in, garbage out? If all you're getting, if the only input you're getting, the information you're getting is through a source that's so heavily biased and being forced into the world, forced manipulated into this reality that we're experiencing, all you're going to get is bullshit on the other end. So the narrative that the former president of the US, Barack Obama, comes and tells our Prime Minister what to say. Now, why would that be? Why would that be? Oh, because Russia's bad, because they invaded another country. Pot, kettle, black. The US and the UK, Germany, France, blah, 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 all the allies invaded Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria. Shall I keep going? Oh, but Russia's bad because they invaded Ukraine. For what? Because there was Ukrainians that were bombing the Donbass region, who is mostly Russian-speaking people. So the president of Russia is going to protect the Russian-speaking people, and then the West has a proxy war through Ukraine to fight against Russia because they want to take Russia out. Why would that be? Because Russia wants to disrupt the global hegemony that's created by the American and British banks and corporations that run the world through the financial system, that they won't let countries who want to step outside of that, maybe a gold-backed currency for the BRICS nations. They don't want that. They want to stay in control and have the hegemony centered in the US and the UK. Okay? So when you have these nations like Russia that want to, don't want to, they've already been taken out of the Western financial system, which is SWIFT, and Iran and China, So you have to destroy the person that wants to sidestep and create another system outside of the system that the whole world uses, because otherwise what happens to the West, right? Demonize, dehumanize, and then destroy. Okay? Demonize, dehumanize, and destroy, which is what they're doing. What have we heard for the past 6-8 years? Russian collusion, Russia this, Russia hacked the elections, Russia did that, everything's Russia. Russia's aligned with Putin, Putin's aligned with Trump, and Trump and Xi of China, and Trump and North Korea, and Trump's a fascist dictator, while it's mental. It's mental. The whole narrative is mental. And we've been fed this narrative from this propagandist media that has zero viewership, but there's still people believe it because of course I watch the BBC. It's news. Not biased propaganda, but news, right? So that's one narrative that we've got. Former president of the US comes over and tells our Prime Minister that the Russian elections are not valid. Our Prime Minister spouts that when he wasn't even elected in the first place. So let's start there, okay? Let's move on to the next narrative that we're hearing all over the place. Kate Middleclass. You know who I'm talking about. The Royals. Now, there was a person who is associated with Kate Middleclass, I think a friend, like James Hewitt was to Lady Diana, perhaps. Or perhaps the Juan Carlos, the King of Spain, was associated with Lady Diana as well. Good friend, okay? So this guy, I can't remember his name, so stop me, help me, apologise if you don't know who I'm talking about. But there was a guy, apparently best friends with Kate Middleclass, who was found beaten to death in a room that was locked from the outside. Oh, but it was suicide. Now, the rumour is that he impregnated Kate Middleclass, who's married to a royal, of course. And we all know about the royals and their best friends being paedophiles, namely Jimmy Savile and Jeffrey Epstein. Okay? One was the older brother, one was the younger brother. Let's not talk about that, okay? Because it's not real. So the rumour is that she was impregnated by this guy who was beaten to death. She hasn't been seen since Christmas time. No one knows where she is. Then the Royal Palace came out and said, oh no, she had abdominal surgery and she's resting. Her staff said, no, we knew nothing about abdominal surgery. Okay? Then her account on Instagram, I think, don't quote me, I think it was Instagram, one of those things, put out a picture of her with her children. Okay? And some eagle-eyed sleuths realised that the picture wasn't real. I mean, it was probably AI generated. There was lots of images, Photoshopped to hell. It really didn't fit, didn't sit right, and people were pulling it apart. So then, when people pulled apart the narrative that that's not her, or it's been manipulated, then they pulled the picture down. All the media said, well, it's, you know, and then she came out and said, oh yeah, I did some photoshopping just to, you know, to edit a little bit, you know. But then William took credit for the picture after it was posted on her account. She hasn't been seen since Christmas. Her staff don't know where she is, and they knew nothing about an abdominal operation that she was having. Meanwhile, the palace and the media's like, stop asking questions, okay? Just give her her privacy. Just tell us where she is then. Then, just to put a little full stop on the end of it, oh, there's Kate. That's her. She was spotted in a farmer's market with William walking around, and here's the video, just to prove she's still alive. Proof of life. Completely different person. I mean, utterly, totally different person. Totally different person. And we're supposed to just believe that narrative. Oh, yeah, so that all, yeah, sounds legit. Okay, all right, so you remember a while ago, a few videos ago, where I said, watch how quickly the narrative changes. I mean, it's going to be so... It's going to be constantly changing, just to keep you off balance and to keep you guessing. Now, what's the other thing we're hearing about? All over the media, all over everywhere. I mean, it doesn't matter where you turn, whether it's business, whether it's news, anywhere you go. Crypto, Bitcoin in particular, okay? Bitcoin is everywhere, all right? Now, I know I've been rambling about this a lot, but I'm going to point out the narrative because I want you to see it, and I want you to hear it, and I want you to understand it. So when you see it, you go, that's weird. Like my friend Vince over at their Rise and Grind with Vince Taglavia, he's now going, I can't believe that I never questioned that no one knows who it is, right? So it's everywhere. It's everywhere. The narrative is everywhere about Bitcoin. Oh, the price is going to go up to 100,000 by the end of the year. No, it's going to be 1 million by next year. It's going to be, you know, they're constantly doing these calculations and like, you know, this is why. Because there's a supply shock, and next week is the halving, and the amount of Bitcoins being produced is going to drop down to 450 a day, and there's none left in the market. All the OTC, which is over-the-counter sales are done. They're empty. So now it's going to be a massive price increase, because there's a supply shortage and it's rare. So the price is going to keep on going up and not stop until it gets to 1 million a coin, and 5 million, and 10 million, 100 million. It's going to be so big, and there's going to be no stopping it, Chris. What happened yesterday? I dropped by 10 grand. Bitcoin dropped by $10,000 in a day. Oh, but that's just the nature of the market, Chris. Crypto's volatile. You need to understand. But what about the supply shortage? What about all these ETFs that are constantly buying more than is produced today? Can you see a narrative forming there? It's like, look over here. Look over there. It's obvious. Look at that. Look at that thing. It's all about distraction, having you look somewhere else while something else is going on. Okay? Now, distraction, Bitcoin, distraction. Everyone's like, oh no, but the whole world's financial system is going to be built on Bitcoin, Chris. You need to understand. I'm like, okay, the entire world's financial system is going to be built on a platform that's slow and expensive, and no one knows who created it. Does that sound legit to you? I mean, I'm crazy, obviously. But look at the narrative. This is what I'm saying to you. Watch what they say. Watch what's happening in the world and listen to what they say. Watch what they do. Right? Now, I was watching an interview this morning with Vince and a pastor. And he brought up some valid points, which has to do with what I started this whole talk about, which was this idea that giving away your sovereignty and your power and your free will to choose to someone else, or to something else in this case, which is AI, or to someone else. Now, that's assuming. Now, this guy's saying we need to live forever to become gods, and then we can, we can go and explore and we don't have to die. We never have to die. We shouldn't have to die because, this is science. Science! We can use AI to create circumstances where we never have to die. Maybe we can be silicon, or we can go inside a computer and we never have to die. Okay? Now, when Vince was talking to this pastor in the interview, it raised some valid points. Now, it comes back to, what are we here for in the first place? Okay? What are we here for? This is the question I keep on asking, not only myself, but everyone I come into contact with. What is your purpose here? What are you here for? What are you just here to live and to die and to, in between pay some tax? Or are you here to maybe have self-examined? What was it? Was it Socrates or Plato? I'm not sure who it was. That said, a life unexamined is a life unlived. So maybe the purpose, and this is like, you have to decide what you're here for. You have to decide your purpose. You have to decide your place in this whole game that we're in, the simulation that was created. What is your purpose here? So if your purpose is to examine your life and to have experiences, and those experiences allow you to examine your life further and to adjust, how you're going to live your life and what you're going to take from it. Like I say, in most of my videos, I'm not here to tell you that you should listen to what I have to say or to copy my life, because I've got most of it wrong. I have. Like most of the important decisions I've made in my life, I've got wrong. Wrong or right. Is there wrong and right, or is it that the things that happen in your life, the events that take place in your life, how you respond to those events, and you take that forward. So it's a constant learning mission for you to learn lessons through the events that take place in your life. Now, much like anything, it is all about how you respond to stimuli in your environment. So, let's just say we'll go to an event that we all experienced, COVID, the flu, right? How did people respond? Rather than using rational thought, rather than questioning the narrative, rather than saying, hold on a minute, let's examine the reality of the situation, rather than having a knee-jerk reaction to the news that's coming out that was complete propaganda, right? No, people were willing, not only willing, but would actively go out and try and shame people that believe something else, or even tried to question the narrative, because they were led to believe something completely false from people that they thought were there to protect them and make decisions to help them. Much like, this benevolent AI that's here to help us, like the politicians. And the corporations who just want what's good for us, Chris. The corporations who produce alcohol, produce cigarettes, they're there to help us, Chris. You don't understand. And then it gets blamed on, the quintessential reason, that's capitalism, Chris. That's what it capitalism creates this environment. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You have unchecked crony capitalism that creates monopolies, that creates situations that we've got ourselves into. We have mega corporations that are international, that don't pay any tax, contribute nothing, and take from society and give to the politicians to enrich themselves and to enrich their cronies who allow them to be in a position to take advantage of us all. Now, if you subscribe to the fact that we are here to learn, live and learn and have a life experience and leave something behind. Maybe like my experience that I had with ayahuasca when I asked, because, you know, I've been fighting against my career. I'm a chef for my job. It's not who I am, it's what I do. But I've always looked down on my job as being beneath me. You know, I'm better than that. I'm smarter than that. I mean, anybody can flip a burger, right? So, you know, I've always looked down on my job, and I thought, you know, my whole approach to it, you know, I've been doing this 35 years. My whole approach to my job, what I did for a living, was everything I do today is going to be in the toilet tomorrow. So, you know, you can imagine how that made me feel about myself and what I did and what I was contributing to the world. So when I went and did ayahuasca, and you can ask this plant medicine, or whatever you want to call it, this plant medicine, you know, questions. And the question that I asked was, what should I be doing in my life? What career, what job should I be doing to leave an impact in this world? Because that's what I want to do. You know, I want to try and leave the world better than what I found it. And that, I come at that from lots of different angles, but obviously the way that I raise my children, and how I interact with people. And you know, the response from this plant medicine, from the ayahuasca, was, I asked the question, what should I do with my life? What job should I be doing? And the response was, it doesn't matter what job you're doing. It's not about the job. You know, the job is a vehicle. So you could be sweeping the streets, but your job, your role, your impact on this world is your influence to people. You know, so whether you're working in a kitchen, whether you're working or doing videos like this, it's what message are you sharing, and what impact and what are you trying to leave behind to make the world better. So it doesn't matter what job you're doing, you know, and I'm not looking to do this for a job, by the way. There's a direction I want to go, but we're going to talk about that at some later date. But that was the response. So if my role here is to learn, understand, interact with this reality, if that's what we're calling it, and to share how I see things as a Tyler Durden of this reality. Tyler Durden, for those of you who don't know, was in a movie called, God damn it, I can't remember. Sorry, blasphemy. Blasphemy again. Fight Club. Fight Club. Tyler Durden was the guy that wanted to buck against the system. And I feel like I am that Tyler Durden, although I don't know how to make soap. So if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. It's a great film. The whole movie is about bringing down the system that enslaves us like it currently does. Now, when we go back to this AI idea and this concept and this value proposition that it brings, in that AI could bring all this information together and solve problems for us. Brilliant. But do we want to give ourselves over to it? So the age-old question is, are we using technology for our benefit, or is the technology using us? And if we see what's happening in the world, what is the most precious commodity in the world right now? It's data. And the data that it's being collected on us all through social media, through platforms like this, you know, things like 23andMe, if you know about Susan Wojcicki and Anne Wojcicki, look into it. I'm the crazy person, remember? Data is the key, because if you program enough data into an AI algorithm, or all your social media posts, all that kind of stuff feeds into the data collection of profiling who you are and what you're about, is key to manipulating you. Okay? Now, people don't like my approach of how I do things. I swear, I curse, I throw my toys out of the pram occasionally. I call world leaders scumbags. I say, you know, threaten them. I don't threaten them. I don't threaten them, anyone. But I ask them the question, what is the punishment for treason? Because they are treasonous dogs. All of them, men, women. Oh, you can't say that about women, because of course I can. I can say whatever the hell I want. Freedom of speech, right? Isn't it? So this idea that I'm doing it wrong in the way that I approach it. Now, we are, whether we like it or not, as we're taking part in this digital society that we're in, how we interact with this digital automaton that is our social media, our media, our internet profile is key to making sure that the algorithm doesn't understand you, okay? Because it's not going to understand emotion because it can't. It's not emotional. It is logical. So what I try and do is throw the algorithm off with all sorts of stupid shit. Memes, swearing, cursing, all this kind of crazy shit. Because that's my role. That is my role. I'm living my role. I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing because I'm being led in that direction. What's leading me, you say? Well, this is where we come to the next part. That is the understanding of why we have free will in the first place. Who created us? Okay? Or what created us? Well, it's your parents, right? But who created them? And then you keep on going down through the ages and through your genealogy. Is that right? Correct me if I'm wrong. When you go back through your ancestral lineage, who created them? Oh, but their parents and their parents and their parents. All right. Where did it go? Oh, yeah, we were single-celled organisms that crawled out of the sludge, became two-celled organisms and three-celled organisms, and we evolved from monkeys to where we are now. But shouldn't there be a constant evolution going on? Shouldn't there? Shouldn't there be two-celled organisms and, similar organisms that are finding their way out of the sludge pool? No? No. So we were created, and like I say, I believe, but then I'm crazy, so I don't accept you to take on my belief system. I believe that we're living in a simulation, and I'm not alone. Okay, now, there was an interviewer who was questioning Elon Musk. Like him, don't like him, doesn't matter. He's a part of the game, and he's a part of the influence of this reality. So you have to understand, he's doing his part, I'm doing my part. What part are you playing? Okay, the interviewer said to Elon Musk, you are creating this Grok AI. Grok is the name of the AI that's being created by Elon Musk and his team. He also started a company called OpenAI that's now closed AI, okay? And he's suing them for that, by the way. But anyway, we're not going to go there. So Grok, he said, what's the first question if you get this general AI to operate at the level you want it to operate at? What's the first question you want to ask of that AI? So Elon took a few seconds to contemplate, and he said, what's outside the simulation? I believe we are living in a simulation. I don't doubt it for a second. I really honestly believe that with every ounce of my being, that we're living in a simulation, a created simulation. Now, whatever that means to you, ponder it a different way, okay? What would it take to create a simulation that we're all living in, and we can influence through our actions, our speech, and our words, and all the things that we're doing in this reality, or our ignorance, or our inability to act, all those kind of the way that we're living? What or who could create that? Something much more powerful than we are, obviously. But are we getting to that point where we could create that ourselves through this general AI, or this, these AI systems? Possibly. But that would require us to put the glasses on. Put the glasses on. Where have I heard that before? Anyway, so and in the interview with Tom Bilyeu, this guy, whatever his name was, I can't remember now, it doesn't matter, Johnson, he says that you have to look as a wider time frame as to how he says you can't kill an idea, So if you have a group can be wiped out. He said there's three different ways you can have something go forward. You create a group, you create a country, or you create a religion. And he said, groups last for a short period. Countries can last, for maybe a few hundred years. Or, a religion can last for thousands of years. And it comes back to that question of, well, why would religion last thousands of years? What's the mechanism of religion lasting for thousands of years? If it's all lies, right? Which is what I hear every day on social media. God doesn't exist, because people don't like the idea of religion. They poo-poo anything that could be anything to do with a creative input into this reality that we're living in. So, if religion has the power to last thousands of years, why is that poo-poo? Why is that discounted as being nothing but stories and handed down for thousands of years? Because those stories, even people who don't believe in religion, I don't follow a religion, I'm a spiritual being, I have a connection to a higher spiritual consciousness than I am, that I'm part of, that I am taking part in, that forms the basis of this simulation, this reality that we're living in. I don't have to have a religious belief in a religion to have that belief. I have that belief system because that's what I see, that's what I feel, that's what I've interacted with. And the problem is with these people that have no spiritual connection to this world, this reality, this creation that we're living in, they can't see beyond it. Because they can't see beyond it, they fear death. Because death is the end, and they think they're too important to die. I've got a mission to complete, which is to make the world the way that I want it to be. And you better comply and believe everything I say, like climate change and COVID was real and all that kind of nonsense, because otherwise you're acting against the species and we'll all be wiped out. Oh, there's another deer. We'll all be wiped out because you are not acting in the bigger picture, the grander scheme of things, that, we're all in this together. We're all in this together, right? It's for the greater good. For the greater good, you have to adopt a belief system that is being brought to you by people who think that you're not worthy of making your own decisions. A narrative, another propaganda narrative that's being brought to you by the very same people that are producing narratives for you on a daily basis that are completely fabricated and are not real. We're living in a not real world, created in this matrix that's created every day by the media, corporations and governments to keep you in a fear state so that you can't make decisions for yourself. And this is the issue. Why do people do drugs? Why do people overeat? Why do people, because of the stresses in our life, because of this overwhelming sense of fear and doom and panic about the state of the world. Oh, it's all going to end tomorrow, and this is going to collapse, and there's no more work, and there's no money, and you can't live. The cost of living crisis. All these fears and worries and doubts and panics are fed into our society through the zeitgeist. And I'm going to be speaking to Robert over at the Comic Book G-Spot about the zeitgeist soon, so keep an eye out for that one. The farmer's interview, not sure if it's going to go ahead. He's a bit wary about speaking to a crazy person, but don't worry, I'll find a way. But this fear narratives is what making people turn to things to escape the constant fear that we're under. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy when you say, well, most of these people are useless eaters, like Yuval Noah Harari of the World Economic Forum. These kind of people who are, you eat the bugs, who are, who think that they can control society through the narrative. And then when the narrative breaks down, they're like, well, people are rebelling against us and we don't understand. Because you know what? That's free will, and that was given to us so that tyrants like you guys, who are trying to push this narrative and this garbage of this reality that you want to create, that people like me and people who are questioning the narrative and going, hang on a minute, that doesn't make any sense, are going to constantly stand up and say no, which is why they want to get away with toxic masculinity. All these men are doing these things. It just makes me so sad. Oh, these toxic masculinity men. By the way, we want more war. You men go and fight it. Toxic masculinity. That's why they want to do away with the nuclear family of a man and a woman raising a child. Because that's how children are created, obviously, with one man and one woman. Right, we want to get away with that. We want to get rid of that, because if we can get rid of that, then you know what? We reduce the population because people aren't having children. Oh, and the lifestyle of cutting your penis off is also a great idea. And the gay lifestyle is wonderful as well, because Yeah, it's great. Now, I'm not gonna stand here and say that gay people or trans people or any other group should be mocked and shunned and not listened to. But the point that I'm getting at is, if you're drilling into children's minds that these kind of ideas are the norm, then it reduces the population, because people are not having children because of a belief system that they've adopted as a child that's been fabricated through monsters, that central planning or social engineers who want to control our society to the way that they want us to conform to. Now, this rant, this talk, is, in response to what I see. And, agree, disagree, what do you think? Firstly, I mean, should our free will be overcome by an AI or an all-powerful government, a world government, to tell us how to live because it's for the greater good? Should we just give ourselves over to the system because, well, they know best? That's how authoritarian regimes come about, is because, well, I know what's best for you, you do what I tell you, and then we'll all be just fine for the greater good. Now, I have talked about this before as well. When my wife was sick, the treatment that the doctors suggested made her very sick. And I said, well, why are you doing it? I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. If a doctor told me I had cancer, I would laugh in their face and walk out of the office the same day. I mean, honestly, because the way that they talk to you is, we're going to give you this poison and we hope that the cancer dies before you do. They actually said those words. Okay? So, when I said to her, well, why are you doing this? Well, if you don't agree with it, why are you doing it? She's like, well, I can't make that decision for myself, because if I make that decision, I get it wrong and I die, then it's my fault. If I die, then I can blame the doctor. See, I want to absolve myself of responsibility of making the decisions that might not turn out the way that I want them to. But that's part of life, right? We have to make decisions, we have to learn from them. Now, that said, as I say to my children all the time, smart people learn from their mistakes. They do. Smart people learn from their mistakes and they move on. Geniuses learn from other people's mistakes. So, who do you want to be? You're going to learn from your own mistakes? You're going to learn from other people's mistakes? You're going to examine all the different possibilities of the information that's coming to you and make a decision for yourself and use your free will to decide how you're going to respond. Now, one last point before we go, okay? Now, I know I harp on about this kind of stuff. Crypto. Now, Ripple, banks, XRP, right? Because I've heard this many, many times being brought up. But Chris, Ripple and XRP supports banking institutions. We want to do away with the banks, and this is why Bitcoin should be around, because they want to get around the banks, which is being adopted by the banks. This whole circular argument is all bullshit. Now, do you ask yourself a question, okay? Most people don't understand crypto. Most people don't understand the digital economy. Most people don't want to have to deal with it. I know, because people who comment on this channel and other channels don't want to deal with the nonsense that comes with it, having a self-custody and all that kind of stuff that comes along with cryptos and digital money, okay? Most people don't have to deal with it. So do you think that most of these people are not ready to be unplugged? Most of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Where'd that come from? The Matrix. Again, but the Matrix has got so many lessons for us. So, if you know that most people are connected to the system, do you really think that most people are going to go, I'll just get all of my money out of the bank and put it into crypto and I'll live digitally in a wallet? No, they trust the banking institutions because that's all they've known all their life. It's recency bias. Their entire life, they've known banks to be there. They look after my money, even though, if you really understand the financial institutions, they haven't got any money. They're bankrupt. They've gambled all your money and theirs. They're making these massive profits. They gambled all your money away, and the bond market, they're forced to buy bonds with the depositors' funds. Then when the bond market goes down the toilet, the bond yield. So they bought bonds at 1%, now it's at 5%. Now, if people want their money out of the bank, they have to sell those bonds for a massive loss. The banks are going to go down the toilet. But do you honestly think that people are going to leave the financial institutions and banks and go into the brave new world of crypto and digital assets willingly? No, they trust banks. So how do you get around it? How do you move as a company? If you want to influence banks and financial institutions and how they operate, what do? You work with them to change the system from within, the plumbing underneath the system that no one ever sees. I mean, no one ever sees how money's moved around the world. No one ever sees that it doesn't get settled straight away. It's settled a few days later from these Nostro Vostro accounts. You don't understand how the financial system works, but you want to rally against the companies who are trying to change the plumbing and change the system underneath how the financial system works to make it better and fairer and cheaper for the average person to use these financial institutions that we've used our entire lives. So ask yourself a question. Do you really think the banks are going to go away tomorrow? I would love it, but I'm also ready to switch off from the banks. But I'm a realist. It's like saying, yeah, we shouldn't be using oil. Okay, I agree. Let's find something else. But you can't say, click your fingers and tomorrow everything's going to change, because all the people who drive petrol cars now, what are they going to do? Especially the poor people who can't afford an electric car, what are they going to do? You can't change something overnight by a click of your fingers and say, that's how it's going to be now. You can't do it, because it's not fair across the board to all the people that are working in those industries and the people who use the products, which is all of us, that are created by those industries. We have to have the technology be integrated slowly through the systems that we recognize and we understand, to be able to change the future on a slow enough trajectory that most people can keep up with it. We've got an aging population. The baby boomers are, unfortunately, they're coming to the end of their life. And the younger generations who grew up with technology will probably adopt the technology a lot faster. Like Australia's adopting a cashless society because it's a younger society. So, all this said, understand the bigger picture. Nothing is what it seems. And I mean nothing is what it seems. We've been led to believe one thing, X, while something else is happening in the background. So don't believe the narrative. Don't believe all the FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Don't believe all the narratives that you see on the TV. Oh, Bitcoin's price is going to go up forever, Chris, and making people buy this thing that no one knows who created it. Has been adopted by the biggest financial institutions in the world that no one trusts, but they're going to buy it anyway because, well, money, Chris. The thing is that I see all the time is, and I see it all the time, is I'm like, well, why are you buying that? Well, because I want to make money. But do you know who created it? Doesn't matter. Money. Do you know how it works? Doesn't matter. Money. I'm making money. It's like all the meme coins and shit coins and everything that's pumping all the time. If you're looking at crypto market, which I do all the time, all these meme coins, they have no purpose whatsoever. It's just that the price goes up 500% in a day, and all these people are like, woohoo, I got rich. I'm making money. I'm like, making money off what? All you did was buy something that you're going to dump onto some poor schmuck later. It's like, it's pass the parcel. It's a game of pass the parcel, and the parcel is full of shit. And the person who's left holding the bag at the end of it all, oh, well, I made money, so fuck them. This is where we are in the world, because it's all about the all-powerful money, and everything drives money. Well, you know what? Kiddie porn's worth, there's a lot of money in that as well. Should we all go that direction? Well, it's money. Doesn't matter, right? All that said, what we've got to do is make up our minds what we want to leave behind in this world, and then we have to go about and go and do that. So, go out into the world, do good, and be good, and you can change the world with the way that you think, the way that you act, what you're sharing, how you share it, and the way that you're interacting with this reality and the other people in it. So share information that you think is beneficial to the world. But most important of all, look after yourself, look after each other, and I look forward to seeing you real soon. Ciao for now.